Did you know that there is an invisible cost that most small business owners have to deal with, and it could be costing you thousands? Stay tuned to hear more. Well, hey there. I'm Kimberly Ferguson, CEO and founder of Emerald Expectations Accounting. I'm so happy that you're here. The Emerald Corner is a place where life and business meet. So I want to share with you the process of running a business while maintaining a life with your loved ones. Today's video is all about fighting that invisible cost. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what invisible cost? So that invisible cost that I'm talking about is scope creep. Now, what is scope creep? So when you decide to work with someone and you sign an engagement letter, right? In that engagement letter, you put what you're going to do for this client, right? So you have X, Y, and Z. These are the things that we're going to be doing for you for this engagement, right? And as you go through the process of fulfilling what you said you would do, they say, oh, hey, while you're at it, could you do this also? And you're just like, okay, that's not that big of a deal. I can do that too. Here's the problem. Maybe you saw this coming, I don't know. But if you add those things, then that's free labor, right? So you just gave away however long it's going to take you to do that for no additional cost, right? And as I've said in some previous videos, if you are doing things for free, then that's time taken away from your family, right? You could be spending that with your family. You could be spending that with your kids. You could be spending that time with your friends. You could be traveling. You could be out in the woods, hiking, whatever your hobbies are, whatever you like to do with your time. You could have been doing that, but instead you're doing this scope creep, this free thing for someone else. So how do we avoid scope creep? So if you caught my video about the biggest mistakes I made in my business, then you might have heard a little bit about scope creep. But if you missed that video, I'll go ahead and link it here for you. Okay, so first things first, let's define the engagement, right? So we want to make sure that you have written down exactly what it is you're going to be doing and then what the cost is for that, right? It's all different depending on what your industry is, what types of jobs you're going to do, that kind of stuff. But we have A, B, C, D, E. These are the things we're going to do for you. This is how much it's going to cost you when we do that, okay? Make sure that you have it written out, what we're going to do, what the deliverable is, what the cost is. And of course, I usually try to include time if you can do that. How long is it going to take me to do it, right? The more you can define, the more you can protect yourself, okay, from scope creep. So number 2 is make sure that you have some trusted referral partners, okay? So this is for the stuff that you don't want to do. So like if someone asks you to, in my case, prepare a tax return, and I don't want to prepare a tax return, I don't like doing that. It's small work. It's not, profitable. It's whatever the answer is. Then have someone that you can hand it off to and say, I don't do this item, but this is who does do it. And I, believe in their work. I think they do a good job. Why do you like this person? Maybe include that in, the email, the call, the text, whatever. So have some trusted partners that you can hand off things that you don't want to do that are not included in the engagement, right? The next thing that you can do is actually increase pricing for out of scope items, okay? So if you have a lot of out of scope items that are happening and you don't necessarily want to do them, but you don't hate doing them, you can just make them more expensive, right? So that way, if you are doing it, then it's worth your time, right? And if it's not, and they don't want to pay that fee, then they can go find someone else who does it. That's totally fine, right? You don't mind if they go to someone else to do something that you don't really want to do, right? So increase the prices for those out of scope items. That way also, if they do an engagement with you in the future and they want you to include that stuff, then they will tell you about it up front so that you can include it in your engagement initially, right? And that way you can expect it, okay? And then the last thing that I would recommend doing is making sure that you communicate your boundaries, okay? So whichever one of these options that you choose to go with, whether it's a trusted referral partner, whether it's increasing your fees, whether it's just, I don't do that, or maybe it's that I will do it, whatever the situation is, just make sure that you communicate it with them, right? So if someone reaches out and they say, hey, I want to do this, and you're like, no, that's not something I do, just respond to the email, respond to the call, the text, whatever, however they reached out to you, and just say, that's something that's out of scope based off of our current engagement, and it's not actually something that we handle. So this is a person that I trust who does handle that. Feel free to reach out to them to cover that item, right? And then if it's something that you do, then you can just say, that's out of scope for the engagement that we have already. But if you would like, I can add that to our engagement for XYZ costs, right? And again, if you want to increase the cost for those out of scope items, then that's fine too. You can do that. But the biggest thing here is make sure that you're communicating it, okay? And then if you do decide to add out of scope things, I always recommend doing an amendment to your engagement letter, making sure that you have still gotten it in writing, right? Because even if they do agree, like say via email or text, you could probably use that in court, but I like having a signed engagement letter for everything. And so since you already have an engagement letter or a contract, I just do a quick amendment that just says everything in the contract or the engagement letter from signed on this date still applies, but we're adding these items and these are the additional costs for these items, right? So the biggest overall lesson here is make sure that you put it down in writing what is in scope. So what things have you already agreed to do? And then pricing for those. And you can even include it in your engagement letter if you want to, where it says outside of scope things. If you want us to do those, it will be billed at XYZ hourly price, or it will be agreed upon at that time, something like that. But make sure that you have it in writing somewhere. So if you agree upon it later, do an amendment to your engagement letter, etc. I think the biggest key here is communication. Don't just agree to do things for free. Your time is valuable, right? Your family would love to see you for that additional time. Maybe you would like to go hiking or traveling or watch movies or whatever your hobby is, right? Maybe you would rather be doing that. And so make sure that you tell them that this is out of scope. It's going to cost you extra money, or I don't do that. Here's somebody who does. And make sure that you're not giving away your time. Well, thank you so much for spending just a few minutes of your time with me today. I hope that you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in my next video. So that is when, think about it as if you have why does it seem like I saw this? I had this stuff. Which video did I have this in? Biggest mistakes. Yep. Number 2. Don't do that. Whatever.